Hello and welcome to another edition of Anatomy Unplugged. This is the musculoskeletal system. We actually have several videos, so this is going to be the first in about 4 different videos. Here we go. And as with other videos, we are just going into a little more detail here on certain points in lecture and just some learning mnemonics and tips and tricks. So for example, in this case, agonist-antagonist. The agonist is the muscle that does the motion. So for example, when you are flexing your elbow, it is your biceps. That's the agonist. The antagonist opposes that, which in this case would be the triceps, the muscle that wants to extend your arm. So the easy mnemonic is agonists act and antagonists argue. If you've ever been involved in a conversation with an antagonist, they are going to be arguing their point. Well, this is the muscle that's, so to speak, arguing to say, no, I want to go into extension, while the biceps is saying, no, I want to go into flexion. So that is a common one that we use for agonist-antagonist. The next concept that is familiar to some, while not to others, is fixators and synergists. And the easy mnemonic here, fixators fix, synergists support. Let's go to that bicep curl example. As your biceps wants to work and flex that arm, you need to stabilize that arm so your arm is not wiggling around all over the place, and that's where the deltoid comes into place. It fixes your arm, by the way, along with your pectoralis and your latissimus. Keep your arm steady so that your biceps can do the work. So that is the fixator. The synergist, I'm going to grab my pointer here, in this case, is something that is going to assist the biceps so it doesn't have to do all the work for elbow flexion. And in this case, it's the lower muscle underneath, the brachialis, which also helps and synergizes the motion, so to speak. So in this situation, your bicep curl, your shoulder, pectorals, and latissimus are all fixators. They're not doing the motion, but they're fixating the arm. And then the synergist is the brachialis underneath it that helps you flex your arm. Another example right now is when I have my coffee cup and I'm trying to drink it and do basically a bicep curl towards my face. I don't want my arm wiggling all over the place. So the other muscles, the fixators, keep it in place. And if I did a whole bunch of bicep curls, for example, yesterday, and my arm is weak, maybe my brachialis can help out a little bit and assist getting that coffee to my face. Sorry, a truck is going by and I got a hawk up above me here, so it's a little noisy. Now, these next set of concepts are a little bit more advanced. We don't go over this too much in my class. The previous ones, fixators and synergists, absolutely, that is covered more in lab. But these are important nonetheless. So we have different types of muscle fibers. Let me grab my pointer again, and here we go. So parallel fibers are, well, exactly that. The muscle fibers run parallel. In this case, the example would be your rectus abdominis, your abs, and then certain muscles in your thigh, such as the sartorius muscle. Just fibers go in a straight line. Fair enough. Fusiform fibers, in contrast, have a little bit of a bulge in the middle, and that is our classic biceps brachii, which is right here. So it's basically parallel fibers with larger set of muscle mass in the middle, and then tendons on either end. Next, pennate, and there are multiple kinds of pennate fibers. This time, the fibers converge diagonally onto that tendon. So down in the lower leg, a unipennate muscle fiber is the extensor digitorum longus, curls and lifts the toes up in the air. Bipennate, hopefully this follows. If unipennate is one, like a unicycle, bipennate, bicycle, two. This is going to be the there it goes. Rectus femoris in your thigh has 2 sets of muscle fibers that come in diagonally converging on that single tendon down the middle. And of course, if we have unipennate and bipennate, I know some of you would think tripennate, but it's just multipennate at that point. The classic example for that one is your deltoid muscle. Several different tendon fibers with multiple muscle slips converging eventually onto one large tendon. So that's going to be the deltoid. Convergent muscle fibers actually look very similar to multipennate. And when I first learned this, and there goes that hawk again, sorry. Convergent fibers, the classic one is your pectoralis muscle, and it looks very similar to multipennate, except it's not multiple different tendons. It is several muscle fibers converging on a single tendon, not multiple tendons. So that's your pectoralis. Triangular, I don't have an example here, it's later in the slide. That's the muscle on the top of your head, which, well, has a triangular shape because it's called triangular. And then circular, well, you just have to use your imagination for anal sphincter, but it's a circular set of muscle fibers. This one up here, orbicularis oris, we're going to get into in a following slide. Now, on to some fun facts and little tips and tricks, hopefully help with the learning. Parallel muscle fibers, there are a couple differences here. They have a greater range of motion, but they don't have as much force compared to fusiform fibers. So your sartorius muscle in your thigh is thin and parallel and straight. Your biceps muscle certainly can give a little more oomph there by comparison. So difference between parallel and fusiform. Parallel, greater motion, less force, speed in large movements, but not as strong as the other muscles, pennate and other ones included. So that's why I said before, sartorius is kind of the classic example. Fusiform fibers have that nice bulge, which is kind of what everyone wants when they want the beach body. They're stronger than parallel fibers, but they're not as strong as pennate fibers. We have pennate fibers there for a reason. Biceps, obviously, like I said, is kind of the one that we show off our quote-unquote strength, but it actually is not as strong as pennate. And when you show off your biceps, you're actually not showing off your true strength compared to showing off your multipennate muscles, which would be a deltoid. All right, difference between unipennate and bipennate. Hopefully this is going to start to make sense as we go through. That feather-like arrangement, kind of angled. More fibers can get packed into a tight space, so therefore, yeah, you're going to generate more force in terms of the pennate fibers compared to the fusiform fibers. Bipennate pack even more fibers. It really jams it in, and it's stronger than unipennate. That makes more sense. So your rectus femoris muscle is one of the main muscles in your quads, in your thigh. Very forceful kicking compared to sartorius, which is a parallel fiber. So hopefully this starts to make sense why we have different muscle fiber arrangements. And then on to multipennate and convergent. On first glance, these might seem like the same muscle. Multipennate, the deltoid has several different fibers, whereas the pectoralis, several different tendons. Pectoralis is just one single tendon. With the deltoid, a lot more force, but a lot less motion now. Everything is just jammed right in there compared to your bicep, which can do a heck of a lot more flexion and extension. Your deltoid doesn't move as much by comparison. Convergent fibers fan out and then converge very focally, in one spot, and therefore it doesn't generate as much force because it's all focalized. That big, wide, convergent muscle converging right into a single tendon compared to the multipennate. But it's a nice mix. It is a pennate fiber, so it's better than parallel or fusiform. Whoa, he's really close by. And it allows you to do something that has at least a decent amount of range of motion, like the pectoralis does. Your pectoralis can go from horizontal abduction to adduction. It can go out to the side. It can go flexion. It can go to extension. You can do a heck of a lot with your pectoralis. All right, onto that temporalis muscle that we were talking about before. This is a muscle on the side of your head, and it has a difference. Oh, sorry, we got to go through the circular fibers first. Excuse me. Circular fibers, again, no picture. Use your imagination for the anal sphincter, but your orbicularis oris, circular muscle, interestingly enough, if you think about it, allows you to whistle. And yes, those are the same muscle fiber arrangements. Kind of weird when you think about that, but hey, next time someone says you're talking out of your butt, well, in a way, it's a circular muscle sphincter, and heck, it works. So hopefully that'll help you memorize this. Don't use this to insult anyone. Triangular fibers. Okay, similar to convergent. There's the example of the convergent fiber, which is your pectoralis. Again, temporalis inside of your head and pectoralis on your chest. They do look fairly similar in shape, and really they are. They just decided to name the temporalis triangular because it just really has a triangular shape to it. But otherwise, it's pretty similar to convergent. A triangular shape, it's a little bit wider, so it really comes down and tapering down. That doesn't allow you to move as much like your pectoralis, but allows you to generate a lot more force, and that's what happens when you want to move your jaw. And that's what happens when you're chewing. All right, we're going to finish this up, round this out, fun muscle trivia. Anyone know the largest muscle in the body? Some people say the latissimus dorsi in the back, but most anatomists and texts tend to agree that the gluteus maximus is really the largest in terms of mass and thickness. So when someone says you have a large gluteus maximus, that is a compliment. They're just furthering your learning in terms of knowledge of the largest muscle in the body. Now, of course, if we have a largest muscle in the body question, we are going to have a smallest. Does anyone know what that one is? And it's a really small one here, the stapedius bone right inside the ear, and it stabilizes the smallest bone, the stapes. So that tiny little stapedius muscle, I mean, it is really small. If you recall, the stapes is like the size of a grain of rice. The stapedius muscle is even smaller than that, maybe about half of a grain of rice. That is a tiny little muscle. Another little fun fact, the only muscle that doesn't need a bone to attach to is your tongue. It's literally just kind of hanging out and all connected to itself. It is not connected to a bone. It is the only muscle that doesn't do that. Like the hyoid bone is a fun trivia. It's the only bone that's floating and doesn't connect to another bone. Also in the same general area. There it is, the hyoid right there. All right, I had to just throw this out there. I put this in lecture in class, but in case anyone is checking this on YouTube, I love puns and they're just fun. Anatomy is full of bad puns and dad jokes. All right.